Today I'm going to be teaching you how to crochet this two-tone moss stitch square whilst carrying the yarn up each row. Now the reason for carrying the yarn up each row, it means that you do not need to cut your yarn and attach a new colour for every single tiny row. We are going to use the same strand of yarn throughout the entire project. This will save you from having to weave in literally hundreds of tails. For these two-tone moss stitch squares, you are of course going to need two different colours of yarn. Now for my square, I have used a pure white and a variegated yarn, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to use two plain coloured yarns so you can clearly see what I'm doing. I'd also advise having a couple of stitch markers just for these first couple of rounds. To begin, pop a slip knot onto your hook. These first two rounds of this moss stitch square are the trickiest, so bear with them and trust the process. Once we get to round 3, it is plain sailing, I promise. So with the slip knot on your hook, I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. For this first round, we're going to work all of our stitches into this first chain that you made. So we're going to skip one and work into this chain here. And into this chain, we're going to start by working a single crochet stitch. Now, before we go any further, I advise popping a stitch marker into that single crochet that you just made. As I mentioned, these first 2 rows can be infuriating. So have some patience and just know it gets so much easier once we're past these first 2 rows. Okay, so we have 1 single crochet. Now chain 2, 1, 2, and pop a single crochet back into that same spot. We have formed our first corner. Now chain 1, and we're going to form another corner, and the corners are 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 single crochet, all working into this same spot. So we have 1 corner formed. If we pull it all around, we've got our second corner. Again, chain 1 and work a corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. That's our third corner formed. Chain 1 and work a corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 corners, and the corners are your chain 2 spaces. Now chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch to this very first single crochet that we made. So we're just going to slip stitch in there. Now, if you want to mark this chain 1 space, you can go ahead and pop your stitch marker into that space. So into that chain 1 space, I'm popping a stitch marker. Now, don't worry about this hole in the middle here where we've created all our stitches. With the tail from your slip knot, you can run that around and weave those ends in at the back and pull it tight, and this little central hole should shrink up. Now we're going to move up to row 2 and we're going to change colour, but we are not going to cut our yarn. So you can go ahead and drop your working yarn and bring in your new colour. And with the new colour, we're simply going to yarn over the hook and pull through that slip stitch. Then pull that slip stitch down tight and we've joined our new colour for our next row. Now turn your work, so we're just going to flip it around, and for row 2 we're going to immediately start working the moss stitch. So into this chain 1 space that you marked, take that out, we're going to work a single crochet, and then again, just for these first couple of rounds, we're going to mark that first stitch you made. Now chain 1, and we're going to work into the chain 2 corner space. So we're going to skip over a stitch, and into this chain 2 corner space we're going to work a new corner, and the corners are 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 single crochet back into that same spot. So we have formed a new corner, chain 1, and we're going to single crochet into the chain 1 space in between these stitches from the row below. Now the best way to identify where we're putting our hook is, this is my chain 2 space here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 little legs. Those are the legs of the single crochet stitches. So we're going to be aiming in between them. So if I pull them apart a little bit, you'll see a little chink of daylight. That is where we're going to work our single crochet stitch. I promise it's easier after this round. So into that chain 1 space in between the single crochets from the row below, work a single crochet. Then chain 1, and we're going to work a corner into the chain 2 corner space. So directly into that exact same spot, we're going to work 1 single crochet, chain 2, and 1 single crochet. Now we're going to repeat this side corner as we go around. So chain 1, identify those 4 little legs from your single crochets from the row below, and we're going to work in between them, so pull them apart if you have to. And into that little chink of light, we're going to work 1 single crochet and chain 1, and then into the chain 2 space we're going to form a corner. So 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 single crochet. Chain 1, identify the spot in between these 2 single crochets. There it is, single crochet, chain 1, and then we're back to our chain 2 space. So into the chain 2 space we're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and 1 more single crochet. So you can already see by this end of round 2 we are getting a much clearer picture of what's happening here. So to end row 2, we're going to chain 1. We're going to do a couple of things. First of all, we're going to take this cream tail, the working yarn is still attached to the ball, and we're going to place it at the back. Just flick it to the back. So it's there at the back. Then we're going to slip stitch to the very first stitch that you made. So take your stitch marker out. You've already chained 1, and we're just going to slip stitch. Then drop the colour you're working with, and your second colour, which you flick to the back, will be here waiting for you. It's at the back. Now we're going to bring that up, and we're going to yarn over the hook and pull it through that loop. So we have carried this cream yarn up. Now turn your work, and you'll see at the back here for row 3 we have this carried yarn. Now we're going to work a single crochet into this chain 1 space because we are now working along the sides, but I'm also going to catch this floated yarn tail. So I am going to insert my hook to the right of it, to this side here, and catch it in my stitch. So work 1 single crochet, catch and trap that loop, and then it will be almost invisible and we're good to go. Now chain 1, and then you're immediately going to work a corner into the chain 2 space. So a corner is single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. This round will be a walk in the park compared to those first twos. Now along the sides, we're going to chain 1, skip the single crochet and work a single crochet into the chain 1 space. So single crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and then you will be at your chain 2 corner space where we form a new corner. So single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, all into that chain 2 space. Then along the sides, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and we're back to a corner. So at every time you come to a chain 2 corner space, we form a new corner. So single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. And then along the sides, we chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space. Keep doing that, chain 1, until you have run out of chain 1 spaces to work into, and you are right back to your corner section of chain 2 where you work a new corner. Single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Then chain 1, work a single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and as we are at the end of this round, we're going to take the colour that we're changing to and we're going to place it backwards, flip it back, and then slip stitch to that very first single crochet that you made. And then for the next round, you're going to drop the colour that you're currently working with, and you're going to bring up the next colour. So your yellow, you're going to yarn over, pull that down nice and tight, turn your work, and again, with that very first single crochet, we're going to catch this floated tail. So just start with a single crochet straight into that chain 1 space, and we begin again. So on the sides, chain 1, single crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 1. Do that until you've run out of chain 1 spaces to work into. You'll hit your corner where you work a new corner of single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. And then along the sides, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and then you hit your corner and you begin again. Work this all the way around. Then before you slip stitch to finish this round, take the next colour, flip it backwards, then you can slip stitch to finish your round. Bring up the new colour from the back, turn your work, and you start your next round. Just remember to grab that little tail, that little float, as you go around. I'm just going to take a moment to weave this end in the center here because it's bothering me that it's just hanging around. So you can see by just running this tail around a couple of times underneath my stitches, it closes that little hole right up. That looks better. Now to finish your square, once your square is the size that you want it to be, we're just going to go ahead and slip stitch to the very first single crochet of the row, and then chain one, cut your yarn, leaving a nice long tail to weave in. You are also done with your other colour, so you can trim that one off too. Then pull that up, pull it tight, and you'll see you only have the two ends here and the one end that you started with. So you've only got 3 ends to weave in. Obviously, I've already woven in my central one, so technically you'll have 4. Now, if I bring back my larger sample here, unless you are looking for it, I don't think you can spot immediately where I've carried the yarn tail up. It looks pretty much the same, and on the back, this is how it looks. A little bit more noticeable on the back, but overall, to save yourself ends, I feel like this is just so much easier and faster. Now, if you are an absolute perfectionist and you don't like this slight jog on your squares and you are happy to weave in hundreds of tail ends to get the effect that you want, this is how you add a new color. So I have finished and joined the cream rounds. So now turn your work, and with your next color, pop a slip knot onto your hook. And then straight into this chain 1 space, we're going to work a standing single crochet. So just pop your hook straight into that chain 1 space, draw up a loop. You will have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through both those loops, and you've completed a standing single crochet. Then continue your moss stitch all the way around. Then when you reach the end of the round, you would simply join with a slip stitch to that standing single crochet that you made. Chain 1, cut your yarn, leaving a nice long tail to weave in. Pull that through and pull it tight. And then turn your work, bring in your next color, slip knot onto your hook, and work a standing single crochet into that chain 1 space, and continue. This will give you absolutely flawless, unnoticeable joins. However, you will have an awful lot of tails to weave in. You will have 2 tails for each individual row, and over a large square that adds up to a lot of weaving in. But as I say, that is the alternative for if you don't like this tiny little jog on the carried up yarns. You can absolutely just cut and change color each row, but brace yourself, there will be a lot of ends. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope by carrying the yarn up and eliminating all those tails takes the pain out of switching colour every row, because the effect is just really cool. I really like how they look. So please do let me know down in the comments what you think of this square. Are you going to carry your yarn, or are you going to just suffer all those yarn tails? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, happy crocheting. Bye!